Hey, what's going on, friends? It's your boy K-Dub, at Mr. K-Dub on Twitter, DizzyDub1 on YouTube, straight out the Pacific Northwest, and you are currently tuned in to Takeover TV.
What is up, friends? Takeover peeps, random person coming across this video. However you got here, I'm happy to have you. It's been a while, and we have stuff to talk about. The last video I made for you was talking about my mishaps selling Patrick Mahomes cards too early in 2017-2018, and conversation around holding cards versus when we sell them, but also learning lessons along the way and never looking back and being held back by possible mistakes. Now we're here for a weekly wrap-up. This has been a while. I'm sorry I was gone last week. I meant to have one for you. We have things to talk about. I was off last week. I wasn't feeling super well. I was kind of under the weather, and then my brother was visiting, and we just had plans and things going on. I'll get into some of that later in this weekly wrap-up, but let's talk about some of what we missed and a little bit of what went on recently. The Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. You've already known this for a while. We just didn't get to talk about it on TakeOver TV. That means Mahomes' cards have gone up even more, I'm sure. I'm not even looking, to be honest. Right now, we're getting excited looking for the free agency moves in the offseason, because this is what happens with the NFL, right? We get so excited for the incoming of the new season, then the season happens, and there's a little bit of a lull in the middle of it, but then we get towards the postseason, and we're amped, and then boom, 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 and all of a sudden the Super Bowl happens, and it's over. But it's not over, because now we talk free agency, we talk mock drafts. People are going to be talking about it day in and day out, giving you their mock drafts over and over, who they think is going to select who, what trades might happen. Free agency is going to be interesting this year. I mean, we're looking at guys across the board. Aaron Rodgers is going to be on a new team. Looks like my Baltimore Ravens are going to be letting Lamar Jackson go, which is a little bit sad. But that's just the way it is. We're going to see where he potentially goes. There are going to be some other moves too. We saw last year in the NFL draft some pretty big trades, like when the Eagles got A.J. Brown, stuff like that. So this is really exciting. This is the speculative time. This is the transaction time. And that is honestly just as exciting as in-season stuff sometimes. The other thing I was going to mention is with the fact that the NFL never really slows down, that makes it a little bit difficult for these leagues that are trying to kind of intertwine with the NFL. I'm talking USFL, I'm talking XFL. It is nice to have football on TV when the NFL is over, but it just doesn't hold up the same. And it's fun to see sometimes some players that haven't played in a while go. Honestly, I mean, Josh Gordon is in the XFL right now. It's nice to see Josh Gordon play again. Great receiver, just had his troubles over time and whatnot and falling out with the NFL. It is nice to see him back. And honestly, let's talk about this for a second. He debuted week 1, XFL with his new team, and he caught 6 passes for 74 yards and a touchdown. Ben DiNucci, a name you might recognize from Dallas Cowboys days, threw this little, scoot pass, very Patrick Mahomes-y, actually. Just didn't look quite as good. Into the end zone to him when it looked like a play was potentially dead. Anyways, though, it makes it really hard. The XFL wants to kind of be this like feeder league to the NFL, I think, and it makes it a little bit difficult because it's just not as good football. To the point that even I would argue that I have more fun watching the NFL draft than I do any XFL game. And it's not that I won't have the games on in the background. It's just sometimes it's just nice, comforting to just have football on, the sounds of football while you're doing other things. But I'm probably not going to plop down on the couch, zone in, and just watch a game. I'm not going to lie. Same with the USFL. One thing that I do think is interesting that the XFL presents, though, is it has different rules, right? So, like, there's little things, tweaks to the game that it will be interesting to see if the NFL ever adopts. And honestly, if the NFL were to adopt a rule from the XFL, I think they would see that as a huge win. One thing that I'm interested in is instead of just kicking an onside kick, you actually have the option to run a 4th and 15 play to get the ball back, if I'm understanding that correctly. And I think that's really interesting, really intriguing, and something I could see the NFL doing down the road. In other sports news, it was NBA All-Star Weekend this past weekend, and I have to say the dunk contest took me aback. Gone are the days of watching Michael Jordan, Spud Webb, Dominique Wilkins, all those guys, Isaiah Ryder do the dunk contest, where I think it was really cool and really a spectacle to be seen. Then we saw, some changes over time. Aaron Gordon had some great dunks when he was in it, but then there's other ones where it's kind of like, man, this is kind of a throwaway. Like, dunks have been done so many times over and over. It's not that dunking, okay, first of all, as someone who plays basketball, dunking's not easy, okay? If you're in a pickup game and you even grab a rim, you know how excited you get? Dunking's not an easy thing. But in the NBA, most people can dunk. Most dunks have been done before. It's hard to even be creative, much less like pull off something interesting that you haven't seen before. That's the problem. It's not that people aren't good dunkers. The problem is there's not that much left to be done. But then you get really interesting players like Matt McClung. McClung. Sorry to some super fan that's looking at me right now. Like, that loser pronounced his name wrong 7 times already. It's not true. I only said it like 3 times. But he comes in and he has something creative. And he pulls it off. The dude jumped over 2 people. One other person on someone else's shoulders. Cleared that. Tapped the ball against the bottom of the backboard. And then dunked it through. You know how much... Okay, when you watch it in slow motion... When you watch any dunk in slow motion... Especially like if you watch the MJ documentary on Netflix... Okay, when things happen in slow motion, it looks like they just glide for forever. It looks like they're constantly going up, like they're never going to come down. That's the slow motion effect. In real time, you go up and come down so fast. The fact that Matt McClung was able to do all of that, execute all those things, clear 2 people, that's doing that alone right there. Tapping the ball against the rim and then still, or against the backboard, and then still bringing it up and over to go through the rim before he even came down. Like, that is a dunk that I like. This was a good dunk contest. I meant to look this up, but I also saw a thing about Matt winning the dunk contest where I think it was like he won like 100,000 for it, which I think is also like what he had previously made on his full contract or something of that sort. You can let me know in the comments if I'm misquoting that or whatever. Anyways, he made a lot of money in the dunk contest that basically equated to what he was making signing to a team. So that was huge for him. And now I'm sure he'll get all sorts of advertisements, endorsements, things like that, more attention. If you're a sports card collector, you're clearly already seeing his cards take off because of that, which is an interesting little side thing. With sports cards, sometimes you can not even go after someone because they're going to perform in a game or win a championship or Super Bowl. Sometimes it can be little things like this where maybe you want to look at some of the young guys or upcoming college talents or things like that, or have a high schooler on your radar that seems to be a really good dunker with, finesse and grace and all those things, because maybe this happens, That's just something to pay attention to. Now, in the actual NBA All-Star game, Team Giannis defeated Team LeBron. Jason Tatum put up 55 points, which is an All-Star game record. 55 points is a lot of points. We also know that there's not a lot of defense in All-Star games, but you know what? There's plenty of you sitting on the other side of this video who have scored 20 points in a pickup game at your local community center and won't stop telling your friends about it at the bars, coffee shops, and gatherings. So I think we can also be excited about Jason Tatum scoring 55 points in the All-Star game. Now I'm going to pivot a little bit here, right smack dab in the middle of this weekly wrap-up to kind of set up the future of weekly wrap-ups and things I'm doing on Takeover TV. I'm going to plan on each week, kind of adding more topics, adding more segments, taking away some, tweaking, things like that. And I want to hear your opinions on that. I want to hear your commentary, what you like seeing, what you don't like seeing, what I haven't done that you want to see, all those things, because I want to develop this a little bit more. The weekly wrap-up started as me having an extra video to give you each week. I was going through NFL games after they happened. I was looking at game notes, writing down the most prevalent ones and interesting ones and records, and we were going through that game by game or whatever. And I want to stay true to form. I want to do that when the NFL comes back to an extent. I don't know that it'll be game by game. I might just take like the biggest moments of there or whatever and kind of gloss over that, because you can also look up game notes and highlights and things like that. I want content that's just like a little bit more rewatchable, or like covers multiple things, feels a little bit more like a show you'd be watching kind of deal. Because I'm guessing that, in like 2026, someone isn't going to be wanting to watch the 2022 game notes of the Vikings against the Eagles, you know. But it's not that I won't still cover game notes. I will totally do that. I'll talk about statistical things, highlights, important pieces, whatnot of that. But I want to put other things in there too. I want to develop this out the way the channel is built to be, because the channel is built to be about things that I'm passionate about, and hopefully I can give you some interest in as well, or just teach you things that you didn't even realize you wanted to learn, you know? So this channel is going to be, as it's always been this way, it's built around sports cards, sports, music, and video games, primarily GameCube. So I'm going to be involving all of those things in the weekly wrap-ups going forward. As I see news, I'm not going to force it in there, but if there's a prevalent piece of video game news, an interesting GameCube thing, a music thing, I might give you a song suggestion for the week to check out, things like that. I want to hear your song suggestions for me to check out, and I'll also be talking sports cards, sports, all the things you love, all the things the Takeover is about, all the things that I'm about. But I just wanted to add a little more like depth and development to weekly wrap-ups on the Takeover TV channel. So that is what I'm looking at doing going forward. I hope you will stay for the ride and watch that. And now on that of adding things that are a little bit different into the weekly wrap-ups, you may have seen me drop a bunch of live concert footage recently. I dropped like probably 10 songs on there. Thank you for those of you who stuck around or maybe wondered what the heck I was doing and why you're still subscribed. Thank you for still being here, or at least showing up again today for this video. I wanted to just share a little bit of what I was doing this weekend and further develop the music side of Takeover TV. I went to HeartSupport Festival, which is the reason why my brother was visiting this week to see my family, but also to go to this festival with me. It was in Orlando at the fairgrounds, and there was a lot of great bands. It was really cool. It was put on by a band called August Burns Red. Their lead singer, Jake Lurs, he has a company, foundation called HeartSupport that's built around, talking about mental health, talking about just taking care of yourself, things like that, inner work, and knowing that you're not alone and that there's a community around you. So he wanted to build a festival around that, and he did that. He invited a bunch of his friends, a bunch of bands. There were some really great ones. All sorts of people were there. Rise Against was there, Under Oath was there, The Devil Wears Prada, Spirit Box, Silverstein, Hawthorne Heights, Senses Fail, August Burns Red, The Ghost Inside. It goes on and on. There were plenty of bands. It was great. It was so much fun. It was honestly one of the best setup festivals I've ever gone to. There was enough space for everyone. There were a bunch of food trucks. There was like a beer tent thing. There was a easily accessible water station. There were like outhouses, but then there were also, like the biffies or whatever you call them. But there was also like actual restrooms too. There was so much stuff, and the medical staffs were on top of it if someone looked like they were dehydrated, all those things. And then also they staggered the set time, so like you could see every band if you wanted to. You wouldn't miss anything. They had 2 stages, not even that far apart to walk across. Basically just like walked from one stage across a little field, up some stairs, and boom, you're at the other stage. So you could go back and forth between there. So the set times would happen. So you basically had like 10 to 15 minutes generally, I'd say, maybe 5, but that's enough still between sets. So like one would end, then you had time to figure out what you're doing and maybe pop over to the next show. And also, even when a band was sound checking, it wasn't like blending in or messing with the other one. They were far apart, or far enough apart. The standouts to me there were Under Oath has still got it. And not only that, but they're maybe at the top of their game now. They look like they're just loving it. They're writing good songs. They're playing the old jams, all that stuff. Also, seeing the development of bands like The Devil Wears Prada and Silverstein. I've loved those bands for so long, since I was a wee little emo teenager in girl jeans and a studded belt with swoopy hair across my eye. And they're still writing great music. They're developing too. That's the thing. Like, it's just really cool to watch. Another really impressive one was Spirit Box. Honestly, everyone this week played really good sets. No one had a hard time. He Is Legend is one of my favorite bands to see live, and Skylar, their vocalist, wasn't feeling well. He still killed it. But Spirit Box, that singer, Courtney, is so impressive. If you haven't seen her videos of like one take in studio vocal stuff, she sounds just as good live as she sounds in the studio. She just destroyed the stage. She was so good. Such a good, her control of her voice, her highs, her lows, her screaming, her growls, the way she can sing beautifully and then go into yelling and then switch right back into beautiful singing is just outstanding. If you haven't checked Spirit Box out, please go do so after you're done watching this video. The other ones I liked a lot were Hawthorne Heights spoke to my little elder emo soul. They showed up and said that they weren't going to play the deep cuts because they knew what everyone wanted to hear. They played Ohio is for Lovers. They played Nikki FM. They played Saying Sorry. They just all the hits. And then Silent Planet is a really good band to see live too. And they're also just really good dudes. And they just play really big, beefy sounding shows. Just very, very talented. And in true form, to adding to the wrap up, I'm going to send you off with 2 songs. Well, 1 album, 1 song to listen to. Linkin Park dropped a new song featuring the late, great Chester Bennington on it. It is called Lost, and it sounds great. I would encourage you to go listen. And my second listening suggestion is the new Paramore album. They just continue to crush it. Hayley Williams is a great singer. They write just well-crafted, catchy songs all the time. They've been doing it for years. It's great. One to listen to. Thank you so much for hanging out, friends. Please, again, let me know what you'd like to hear more of, what you'd like to see more of, all those things. I will continuously add more and more things to this. And I want to make weekly wrap-up a really interesting thing, and Takeover TV in general just a really interesting thing. Thank you so much for hanging out. Peace and love. I will see you guys soon.